Hey, AfterBuzzers! Today on AfterBuzz TV, we discuss Season 3 and Episode 3 and 4 of BoJack Horseman. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Credit song of BoJack Horseman, the Netflix series.
I just learned Group Love performed
by Group Love.
That's right. I'm filling in for Kanika tonight. My name is Phil Svitek, and joining me today are...
Andrew Mena, the one and only, ANDREWMENA. Follow me on the Twitter and at Instagram at the Andrew Mena. But first, enjoy the rest of this song.
And I am Robin Genesai. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Robin Genesai. There we go. Simple.
I am, you know what? I'm very excited about this season already.
Yes.
4 episodes in, but so far very good, and obviously we'll talk about both. We'll start with episode 3, BoJack Kills.
Yes.
Oh boy.
We get to meet Goober.
Yeah.
Who is
Less of a goober than a greasy guy.
He kind of reminds me of Roger from like Sister or Kimmy Gibbler from Full House. Yeah.
That's who I was going to ask. Like, who does it remind you of? Because there's so many sort of characters from 90s sitcoms that kind of just went somewhere.
It reminds me of the guy from Clarissa Explains It All, Sam, that would always just show up with the ladder. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He would just climb into this girl's room. It's like, that is not a behavior you want to encourage. This gentleman is not going to turn out okay.
Yeah, you know what? In terms of Kimmy Gibbler, though, with the new Netflix Fuller House, she made it back, whereas he's kind of just whoring out whales at Whale World.
Yeah, it's basically a strip club, but it's an aquarium.
Yeah,
it's
aquarium.
educational.
It's just such a jab to SeaWorld and just, the whole controversy that surrounds them after, like, Blackfish came out. So I think it's very interesting, the parallels that you can draw between those two situations.
Which in episode 4, they did have, when BoJack was watching TV, one of the episodes was fishy. It was a play on Blackfish-ish.
Yeah, Blackfish-ish.
Blackfish.
So I think it was making reference to that as well as this.
Yeah.
And Blackish.
Yeah.
Which is a great show.
World's hardest title to say, at least for me. So there we have Goober. I enjoyed this episode overall because it's just so weird and it's kind of meta, and they sort of state it as they're going through it in the sense that, like, there's so much to this mystery and it's so weird. None of it makes sense.
Yeah.
And overall, tone-wise, what did you guys think?
I enjoyed it. It was like a film noir little kind of departure, and it was cool to see BoJack not only it took him a bit to care about it, but caring about something and trying really hard to solve this mystery, or at least figure out what everyone is talking about. It was cool to see Diane come back with BoJack to kind of have this really cool arc together. It was the first time they've really, like he says in the episode, I think that's the first time that they've gotten to spend any extended time together since she got off of his deck chairs. So I feel like it's this rebirth of their relationship, kind of unfortunately at the expense of her and Mr. Peanut Butter's relationship, it seems like, which is
A little bit.
maybe the big problem for her, right? Like, the only way she can be around BoJack is to not be around Peanut Butter. I don't know. She mentions how... I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing the conversation a little bit, but
That's all right.
she does mention
totally
how
fine.
similar she and he are. So maybe that's a part of why she feels uncomfortable around him, because she feels uncomfortable about herself.
I think it's interesting that she was kind of almost forced into the situation because Anna Spanakopita, right, said that, okay, you can go on this little journey as long as Diane is with you and keeps you trending on Twitter. And so then they're kind of forced into this partnership throughout this entire episode when really in the first 2 episodes you haven't really seen them together. And so this is that first kind of look at what their relationship and their dynamic is like, especially after the end of the previous season, and just kind of her kind of rebuilding her life almost after wasting it at BoJack's house.
Yeah, and it's also interesting coming off of the last episode. We get that weird backstory and how Peanut Butter and her really met, and so to kind of see where they're at now, because that was the first time we got that backstory. So it was interesting to see. He kind of showed a caring side to her when she needed it most at the time, but she's evolved since then. And he, even though BoJack is not the most caring person in the world, he has that side, and he does care about Diane.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's really cool that we have this. It's cool and interesting that we see that they're in therapy, Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter, and that they're working really hard at communicating well, to the point of ad nauseum. They're like, "Oh, I accept your acceptance."
Yeah.
That whole
the
bit
daily download.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really cool though, because especially like you said with that last episode being about the origins of the relationship, like they are working really hard. I think he says something because he gets skunked, right? He's like, "We are 5 big fights away from divorce, and I don't want this to be one of the fights." And that is a really dark thing for him to say, first of all.
Do you think that's foreshadowing at all?
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like
not.
the script and just the dialogue of the entire show, it's just so intentional.
Yeah.
I heard that and I thought, okay, after 4 more big fights, do you think they're actually going to split?
I mean, to be fair, I thought they were always doomed. So whether or not it was going to be the 5 fights or something else, to me, they were never going to work out.
Yeah,
I can see that because she's just such an inherently negative person, just like BoJack, and I think that almost scares her, and that's why she kind of runs away from this idea of being anything like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. No, I totally agree.
And one of the things, so you mentioned that it took BoJack a little bit of time to sort of get into it, but what I liked about it during that time, he was petitioning for the Oscar votes, and that very much is a real thing. Perhaps not to that level.
Oh, the sad old Mr. Ed in the retirement home.
Yeah, I hope you guys can still vote. You guys can still move your finger to vote, right? I enjoyed that aspect of it, and obviously the political correctness of the play and the bar mitzvahs and whatnot. It was a good parody to see that in action.
Wasn't it during that scene Diane said something about how she didn't believe in happiness?
Yeah.
She said something. She alluded to that fact.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that'll come into play later on in the episode, but that was a really poignant moment for her.
She does try to like shirk off the conversation that BoJack keeps trying to have with her about happiness, I think, and just basically says like, "I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it."
But to be fair, his definition isn't like, while he sort of believes in happiness, it's in this false idol of winning an Oscar. Like it's just something to attain.
Absolutely.
But happiness is not like, all of a sudden you reach level 7 of whatever video game. That's it.
Yeah.
Like that's not
Pokemon
how it works.
Go.
Yeah, there is no exactly. There is no switch you can pull. So, but he thinks that this is the mark that will make him happy, though. You know, the box he has to check in order for his heart to like open or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he keeps doing that. I feel like that's the thing that he continues to do just about every season. Is just find a new thing to put his hope in and then go for it until he shoots himself in the foot.
He tends to do that with a lot of superficial things that relate to his career. And so that's why I feel like he's in this endless cycle. If he continues as this actor and continues to reach for bigger and better goals like in his career, that's never going to make him happy. And
I think it is somewhat noble to win an Oscar, right? But it's literally on the notion of you didn't actually earn it.
Right. Yeah, none of that is him. Yeah.
CGI, post-production.
Yeah. So it wouldn't make him happy anyway. And even when he talks to Cuddly Whiskers about it, Cuddly Whiskers having won an Oscar, Cuddly Whiskers says that he, is sitting up there taking his Oscar and he's never felt more miserable. Yeah. And BoJack's like, "Oh, because you're sober?" But he's like, no, because, this thing that I thought should have meant the world to me, meant nothing.
Yeah, and obviously there's that side of it, which is very interesting. But it's also, he felt for some reason that the show, the BoJack Horseman show, that could have actually had meaning. Now, whether or not that's actually true, you can debate that, obviously. But interesting enough, that's what he kind of puts a lot of weight into. Of like, I messed that show up.
Into the BoJack Horseman show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he feels like that was his. Well, first of all, there was nothing wrong with it, right? Like when it was for the draft that Cuddly Whiskers had, was basically great. The studio liked it. They said it would have been really successful. I mean, the only reason that it gets tanked is because an executive makes the mistake of saying that it'll be as big as Horsing Around.
Yeah.
And that is what BoJack defined himself as. That's who he's always been. He's like a 40-something, 50-something now, probably in the show. I think 40-something. Probably 40-something.
I would say 40-something.
He looked about 47.
Yeah, sure. He's a 47-year-old horse. We're good at eyeballing these things. But But so now he's reached a point in his life where he should have some kind of achievement, have some kind of like thing to like point at and be proud of, and all he has is horsing around, which for most of the world is like this punchline, you know. With all these, you know, we see where all the characters went. For the Goober, for example, has become this greasy dude, like basically the pimp for a bunch of really sad whales.
Explain. Let's talk about the mystery, because I want to get your guys' take on it.
Yeah.
It's very much the MacGuffin of the whole thing, and you know,
Great
naming
word,
it
MacGuffin.
You know, the way he explains it to BoJack of like, well, no, heroin, horse, and therefore BoJack.
I didn't know that. I had no idea that
I didn't
horse
know that
was
either.
heroin.
You learn something new every day.
Right? Thanks, BoJack Horseman.
But it still doesn't quite fully make sense and whatnot. It's just, in a way, it's oddly forced, and yet it doesn't feel that way.
Oh, what do you mean?
In the sense of like, why did he call it BoJack?
Oh man, I mean,
didn't BoJack went into like a little moment where he said, "Is it because I represent the face of fame and this Hollywood machine,
the
and that's why?"
opiates of Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, nah, man, just because horse heroin. I mean, I think it's honestly the thing that horse is heroin, and that he was just really saddled. Because the first moment when BoJack walks into Goober's place, Goober is so excited to see him.
Oh.
He's like, "Hey, buddy! Like, oh my gosh, my friend!" And only when BoJack cannot tell
What
him
is
his
his
name. Yeah, has
It's
no
so-
idea.
I don't even know
he
his
did
name.
that
I don't
thing-
even. I feel
he
like
did that thing where he was like, "Hey, you."
Yeah.
because
Hey, friend.
We've all done that before. If like
Yep.
we can't remember someone's name, that's initially our first response to someone.
exactly.
Oh, but that broke my heart because
But I think that's part of why he named it BoJack, is because he really, really loved or wanted BoJack to love him. You know what I mean?
I do agree there, 100%, and he was kind of looking for that satisfaction, and in some sort of weird way, it is existential of BoJack to give some sort of meaning to that, and I think there is that, but again, I think it's telling of both people, Goober and BoJack, that they're putting so much meaning into this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all of the young men in BoJack's life look up to him because he's obviously like more of a father figure than their fathers tend to be, it seems like.
Frightening.
Frighteningly, right? So exactly, it's a misplaced like, oh, you know, I want him to be my dad, but he's just a garbage person. Garbage horseman.
oh, BoJack.
Exactly. I did love Princess Carolyn, as always, solving problems.
Yeah, I loved that line that Peanut Butter says, where he's like, "Well, because you can fix anything. You're Princess Carolyn, and you can fix anything."
Yeah, she always spins it. I mean,
Yeah.
right after they lit their clothes on fire, like on the lawn, she even found a way to spin that and was like, "Oh, Mr. Peanut Butter just wants to, get rid of like the wasteful drought or like
Drought resistant plants.
landscape." So I was like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting."
Yeah.
But she always finds a way to kind of just spin an issue and solve whatever problem is at hand.
You know what? That's a good quality in people. Now she uses her powers for evil sometimes, but the quality is still good nonetheless. And I don't know why Todd needed to be with Mr. Peanut Butter, but the fact that he was just great.
It was great.
You know,
I love Todd as just the sidekick of any given terrible situation.
and of course the strainers are there.
Yep, the strainers are there teasing us.
Obviously a callback. So I did enjoy that. Any other sort of stray observations, whether quotes, jokes of this episode? that you
Well, I
enjoyed?
really enjoyed. We have that little bit because it's a super noir-y episode with the mystery aspects. We have Meow Meow Fuzzy Face, who jumps in for a minute and does his little bit, which I love. I love Meow Meow Fuzzy Face. Cedric Yarborough, I believe, who is just fantastic. There's a great "I know my rights" moment where
There we go.
it's like, do you know your rights,
I
or
like-
are you just gonna look them up on your phone?
When he,
Kill
Mr.
me.
Meow Meow, like asked Diane, I actually thought about this. I don't think I'm even educated, like as
You know you get a phone call, right?
yeah.
Because every
yeah,
movie
they're-
tells you
yeah,
you get a
every
phone
movie
call.
tells you
We
you
know
get
the
a
phone call, but that's it.
They're supposed to say something about Miranda rights, right? There's that, but are we actually educated about what to do when
No,
we're in a
nobody
situation
knows.
like that? Exactly. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, most often times I know you could be like, I want my lawyer present. Damn it, he wants his lawyer. We can't keep talking.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then my last
they get
stray
pissed.
observation is that Cuddly Whiskers is wonderful. He has that line at the very end of the episode, take responsibility for your own happiness. And I think that's fantastic. And I really hope that it starts to lead BoJack in a direction that it will be beneficial to him. Because I think Cuddly Whiskers is basically a foil to BoJack. Like, they could both be the same person if they had the same kind of outlook. So I'm hoping that he will be a good influence.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. Before we move on to episode 4, I want to tell you guys about one of our sponsors here at the network called Loot Crate.
What?
Some of you guys are already familiar, but maybe some of you guys haven't quite pulled the trigger finger. So
Pull that trigger, you guys, because Loot Crate is the bomb.
That's right. What is Loot Crate? Well, it's a subscription-based product, if you will, where you get collectibles, apparel, and more from your favorite pop culture franchises delivered right to your door every single month. Whether you get a t-shirt, figures, comics, and stuff for your kitchen, and a range of exclusive items that you can't get anywhere else from various franchises like Harry Potter, Marvel, Fallout 4, Star Wars, and so much more. In fact, a couple of things from even like Archer, right? I imagine if you like BoJack Horseman, you gotta love Archer. So that's available. And you know what? For less than $20 a month, you can get 68 items that include licensed gear.
Wait, less than $20 a month?
Less than $20.
That's so affordable.
That's right.
Even we students on our student budgets can afford that.
I've got some samples.
You have samples?
Let's look at this.
Ejemplos?
Look at that. This is from the various ones that have come in here.
Is that a Terminator
Do you
face?
remember the Terminator ride at Universal?
I do.
Yeah.
If you're not watching us, if you're just listening, there's a comic.
I don't know what this is, but this is really cool.
It's the 4001 AD comic, the #1 issue, Loot Crate exclusive. Then we got some, there we go, some Terminator stuff.
I think it's a mask, maybe?
And then an awesome T-shirt from Rick and Morty.
Oh, I love Rick and Morty.
Show us.
Yeah, let's show the camera.
I'm ready to see that.
There we go.
Dope.
So, you know what? And because August is very much kind of like an anti-hero type of month.
I mean, it feels that way.
It feels, it was Suicide Squad coming out and all that. It certainly feels that way. That's what they're kind of, putting around. And so it's the perfect time to get involved. And you know what? Guess what? We have some exclusive stuff for you. Our promo lasts until the 19th, 9 p.m. Pacific, so definitely subscribe. And so I mentioned that's kind of the Loot Crate, less than $20, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's also Loot Crate DX, which is a bigger box, bigger loot.
More stuff.
It's less than...
The bigger, the better.
That's right. And for less than $50 a month, you get over $100 worth of goodies.
Whoa.
So that's Loot Crate DX, so you have those two sort of models and pricing. And if you go to lootcrate.com/buzz and use the promo code BUZZ, that's Buzz, you can save $3 off of any new subscription. What? So you're on a college budget, aren't you?
I'm definitely on a college budget. I mean, I
Savings
remember
help.
seeing Loot Crate at some of the different events that I worked at in LA for this PR company, and I just thought it was amazing because they had stuff from Harry Potter, and I'm such a Harry Potter fan. So, I mean, if you get the chance, open up your laptop, go on Google. It's at least worth the search. Just look into it a bit if you're interested. I mean, we do have that promo code, so might as well. I know I'm on a college budget, so that's going to be very helpful for me.
And they also have like gaming boxes and other things like that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. They got there's just a plethora of stuff.
Awesome.
Tons of exclusive content.
Because I like
products.
video games, so maybe I can get a little one of these guys.
It is a subscription box service for the epic geek and gamer.
Ooh.
All pop culture type stuff. So
Sweet.
Tons of goodies every month, and it's part of it. It's like Christmas every month.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to describe it.
I like that. I would like to have Christmas every month.
I mean, I love online shopping because you forget about the fact that you ordered something, and then when it comes to your door, it's like, there you go, it's a present. Fingers crossed. There's going to be some Suicide
Talk
Squad
about
material.
meaning in your life. You need meaning in your life.
Yeah. Add meaning into your life with Loot Crate.
BoJack, get Loot Crate. You'll have some meaning. It'll be like you get your own Oscar every month.
Yeah.
So, all right. Moving on to episode 4, Fish Out of Water. This is a standalone episode, and this was such a different episode from any episode of any season.
Such an experience of an episode. Yeah.
Did you need to be high to see this? Because I was not high, but
no, I mean, I think it's such a visceral visual experience. Like, you should probably abuse some substances before you watch this.
some BoJack.
You should do a little BoJack before you watch the BoJack. Maybe not that one. Maybe not that one. We want you conscious.
Herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Right.
There we go.
That's what I
Disclaimer.
meant.
Yeah. That said, it was a fantastic episode. There were these elements of like vaudeville comedy, like very physical, like old school kind of like Buster Keaton-esque kind of stuff. And then there was, I mean, a lot of just kind of very subtle, nuanced, like realistic, almost like just independent artist kind of stuff. It was really cool.
It felt like a really vulnerable episode because he seemed so isolated from everything else, even especially his vices. I mean, he's so used to drinking and smoking and
taking the edge off of the world. in a way.
and insulting other people, and he can't do that underwater.
Yeah, he had no voice underwater
he can't
for the
indulge
entirety
in
of the
people.
episode.
He did,
I mean,
but
he didn't
he
realize
didn't
that he
realize it
did.
till the
Yeah.
end.
So we can talk about what that means, that he didn't
Yeah.
realize that he did too. But I just love that. Yeah, the incapability of communication with other people in this episode was
And
key.
the storytelling was amazing because, I mean, essentially, just through strictly imagery, they were able to convey this entire episode's worth of just a plot and story.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me of, remember, I think it was in episode 1, or at this point, they're kind of getting blurred. But remember, who's the girl who did the play?
Jill Pill.
That's it.
Yeah, the spider.
And she kind of talks about the meaningfulness of stage plays and whatnot, and she challenges him to kind of do his own thing. Yeah. And in some sort of weird meta way, this was his play. This was him being challenged as an actor, even though obviously in terms of his own character within that world, it means nothing.
I
But
totally
for us
agree.
as an audience, we get that.
I totally agree, and I think that he's also being challenged as like a man, because there's when the seahorse, and we'll get to that in a minute more, but the seahorse baby that he has to kind of basically watch for the majority of the episode, that is, he comes to love that seahorse baby. He really would do anything. He puts himself in harm's way for that seahorse baby, like life and limb. So it's really this, and the look on his face when he waves at the seahorse baby and it doesn't wave back. You know,
because when he looks at the crowd of those little seahorse like children, he can't tell which one's which, essentially. And that, I mean, it just like broke my heart, because essentially this entire episode, the connection that he fostered with this child, you get the sense that it was kind of meaningless at the end, because at the end of it, you couldn't tell like who he had that connection with, and he couldn't even tell who he had the connection with. And then he just left, and that relationship that he forged, I mean, what's going to happen of it? Nothing. And that was very, I mean, if we examine his relationship with Kelsey, we'll get into that. It kind of reflects that.
Well, let's talk about that, because with Kelsey, he goes through many iterations of what this letter should be.
Right.
And that's kind of our only indication of where he's at. Instead of using dialogue, that's all we get. But it's very clear in terms of how he changes through the episode. So, what did you guys think of that progression?
Oh, I thought it was funny when he initially started writing this letter to Kelsey. Towards the very beginning of the episode, he was kind of deflecting the major issue between the two of them, that he got her fired. And he would say something like, "You're the Kelsiest, smell you later, it's BoJack Horseman, haha." And then finally he would get very raw with his letter and say like, "I'm so sorry I got you fired, and I'm sorry that I didn't call you and contact you after. Like, that was such a like dick move of me, whatever." You can really tell that he has harbored a lot of guilt through that failure of that connection that he had with her.
Yeah, one of the first drafts of the letter says, "Sorry you got fired. That sucks for you." Like, what a rude, like, what a
he didn't take any responsibility
yeah,
for
that's
it.
such a non-apology. It's so, it was so crappy. And then after he has that experience with the seahorse and he's able to kind of like care about a thing other than himself for a moment, I think he realizes how crappy he was to her, and he writes that beautiful, in this crazy world, all we have are the connections that we make, which is a beautiful sentiment. Just, it's hard. It's really hard, and all we can do is try together, right? And he wants to share that with her, and he just can't, because he is an idiot, and he's trying to write stuff underwater on a candy bar wrapper. What even was that?
It was the thing that Mr. Peanut Butter was advertising.
Oh.
Was it the baby mix?
The seahorse.
Okay, so the wrapper for the baby seahorse
Yeah.
bottle.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, I love the limitations of underwater. Just the fact that it presented such a different world, and yet like, what was remember like the Shark Cop? There was like a TV show about the shark. Whereas that show made everything kind of be more sea-esque. This was just everything was just underwater, but people still walking around instead of swimming.
Yeah, absolutely. There was like a
interesting.
cameo from a SpongeBob character, I think, in this episode.
Wait, really?
Yeah, there was the
don't
one
think
who
I caught on to
the one
that.
who wants to kick his butt. You guys remember? The audience probably remembers when SpongeBob is going to get his butt kicked by the bully at school. That character was there because
Boating
he's
school, right?
Yeah, because he's
okay.
flat. If you remember, his name is like Flats or Fats or something like that. But he's a
okay.
flat, one of those flat fish that when they turn
think I
sideways,
remember.
they're like
You can't see 'em.
two-dimensional. Yeah, and when BoJack walks by that guy on the street, and it's like the same guy. He's wearing the same clothes. I'm gonna tweet at this later. You guys can check that out.
I live for SpongeBob references. So.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. That movie's on Netflix. Anyway. No, I also talking about the shark clerk that he's, because obviously there's the money, the difference of the money. He's trying to throw like land money at them, and they're like, we use shells, because of course they do. And I just love how angry that shark clerk got. He took out a baseball bat and a crowbar and just started chasing down this guy with a baby, like clearly just trying to feed his baby, dude. Like,
I got like a Jaws vibe when he was running away from the shark, and
Yeah.
then especially when they were surrounded by what was that, like underwater seaweed or whatever, and then that
little
like
forest.
yeah, and then that billboard of like the shark like face
the
came up.
taffy factory, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, we'll talk Kelsey in a moment, but it was a humbling experience because it was obviously people wanted to hear from BoJack. They wanted to interview him, but nothing was tailor made for him. As you guys mentioned, he couldn't smoke his cigarettes. He could barely drink his drink, and so forth. So, it was the first time that he's kind of been in that situation where things aren't directly, at least like even though things necessarily don't go his way on land, at least he can kind of control it again. Just
Absolutely.
at least down to the substance abuse.
And there's like a lack of control under the sea because he can't do any of that stuff until they introduce him to the nicotine patches and the suppository vodka. Was that what that was?
Yeah, that was.
I was like, pretty sure he's putting it up his butt right now. Yep, that's what happened.
Yeah, well,
Whatever works.
What did you guys think of Kelsey's reaction? And
I mean, there's nothing written on it, right? It was
Yeah.
just smudges. So
It was smudges, but I think that, looking at her reaction, I feel like she kind of just assumed that BoJack doesn't necessarily take his relationship seriously. And so whatever kind of communication that he was trying to have with her, she I think initially thought it was just a joke.
Yeah,
And that it didn't
like,
mean anything to her.
I can't imagine what she would have. I mean, I almost think she thought nothing of it. Like, it's a piece of paper with scribbles on it. He tried so hard on multiple occasions, like right before he got kidnapped by the sardines that pushed him on the bus. Those sardines, by the way, they ruined everything.
They appeared so much on this episode.
Yeah.
So many different puns, visual
Yeah.
puns.
Lots of fun fish puns. I liked it. I love that early on, sorry to derail a little, but I love that early on one of the first things we see is that there's like a krill family waiting at the airport and a whale just eats them. And then their little bag sadly just falls over and is just sitting there. Well, the car drives away and another car comes. So it's like, what a world. Oh, their little bag. What did they do with it? I wonder. Just
well, the
donate it
horrors
to
of being a
Goodwill.
krill. That's why Krill and Grace was such a hit TV show.
Krill and
Good
Grace.
point. Good point.
So, yeah. But do you guys think Kelsey had any notions of? Did she know that BoJack was there? I mean, he kept avoiding her in many ways, but
I mean, she had to know. Like, Secretariat's
Yeah.
being shown, right? So she knows that in the very least. And she saw him from, like, there's that moment where he's holding up the newspaper or whatever it is that has his face on it. And she's like, I know who that is. Like, you can tell in her face, she's like, yeah, that's BoJack. So I feel like it was always a, she if he's ever going to say anything, he needs to approach me kind of situation. So I feel like maybe she knows that you can touch the button and speak and just is waiting for him to do that.
I'm not sure if I interpreted the scene correctly, but did they make eye contact when he got swept away by the sardines? Or no?
I think
like he was
so.
attempting
'Cause he, like, touched
to
her
reach out to
shoulder.
her. Yeah, and then
He was like about to show her the thing, and then
Okay.
he got swept away. And I don't think they made eye contact on the bus. I think he was like banging on it, but then it was a missed opportunity because the what's it called? The note flew into the nose of the swordfish. I think.
Yeah.
But I think she checked out after he got taken away under the bus. For sure.
So. Yeah, and when you kind of look at it that way, of all the sort of missed moments and whatnot, you could definitely tell, from her perspective by the end, this guy's just making fun of me.
Yeah, exactly. And like he got her fired. Like it was on him.
That sucks.
And like he forced her to do this too.
And he didn't reach out to her. He really displayed this lack of remorse, and so how is she really going to take anything that he says to heart and really think, okay, he feels bad, because he hasn't made that initial like contact after the fact.
Yeah. That, and also, I mean, this guy just has a history. He's been in the business since the 90s, and at no point has he been selfless.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, definitely not.
So it's just that goes against you, unfortunately, especially and it's very tough to get to know a real person in Hollywood in that regard. So yeah, unfortunately, very, very tragic. Any stray observations about this episode that you guys want to share?
I wanted to mention that I think it's hilarious that BoJack makes the taffy plant explode, thereby probably murdering everyone in the taffy plant, presumably. I don't know if they can breathe through taffy, but probably
you
not.
You can eat your way through taffy.
Okay, maybe, but...
save your life.
I'm going to guess that he just murdered an entire factory full of people in the same breath that he was supposed to be at a showing.
Yeah. To be fair, it wasn't his fault.
I feel like that entire situation, really looking at the show, it seems as though, even though it's a cartoon, they don't really go through any cartoonish situations, but that just kind of was the epitome of a Tom and Jerry kind of
like a
segment.
factory exploding.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I will say it is kind of his fault though. He pushed that shrimp aside and started banging on the machine because he wanted to save the one seahorse baby.
He shouldn't have saved the seahorse baby?
I'm not saying that.
Who was running around naked, by the way.
Who was totally nude. His little wing in there.
Speaking about the seahorse baby, I feel like that was just such an indication of how BoJack, very deep down, he is a good person. He is this genuine human being. And also they were just in very similar situations, because if you think about it, BoJack, he couldn't speak. He was just very isolated, and this newborn seahorse couldn't do anything as well.
Point.
And they had
good point. Horse of the land, horse of the sea.
Exactly. So they kind of they were very parallel characters almost in this entire situation. And so I think that's where that connection came from throughout the episode.
Yeah, I agree. Shall we get into predictions?
Let's do it.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Now, I know with these Netflix shows, I know you guys think, these guys already watched every single episode. You guys are just making this crap up because you already seen it. I didn't see it, so at least I'm being genuine when I make predictions. I don't know if you guys actually binged everything.
Well,
but
we appreciate you being genuine, since we're liars, apparently.
I don't know. Did you guys binge everything or no?
Did I, you know what? I'm not going to say. I'd rather play dumb.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You play it well.
It's going to be interesting for me how this progresses. I think, obviously, a lot of it's going to be built up. I don't know if the midway point's going to be the Oscar, or it's going to completely build to the Oscar, and that's going to be the season finale. It just depends how quickly BoJack says, I don't want this Oscar.
I would say, just continuing on the trend of what we see at the very beginning of episode 4, he's going to continue on this campaign trail just to reach that Oscar. So whether that's the actual ending of the season or whether that's a midpoint, you guys will see. Other than that, I mean, maybe we'll see whether or not Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane, those 5 fights happen, and whether or not they stay together. Who knows? That's a big question, their relationship.
That is a big question. It could be ironic if he wins the Oscar and he's giving a speech and he's like, you know what? This isn't really me and Secretary, and everyone just starts applauding him for his honesty. And he's like, no, I'm a liar.
That would be cool.
You're so selfless.
He's like, okay, well, all right. I guess I win.
Question: do you think he's genuinely going to be happy if he wins that Oscar?
No. Absolutely not.
I don't think it's tough. I don't think he's gonna be genuinely happy with most things in his
Yes,
life.
I think Cuddly Whiskers' advice of you need to take responsibility for your own happiness is like the most real thing that's been said to BoJack in a while. And you see his face light up a little bit when he says it, like he recognizes it as a truth that he may not want to, do yet. But I think it's important. I think it's coming. I want to see more Cuddly Whiskers. That's what I want.
Oh, me too.
I think him and Diane will end up together.
You think so, BoJack and Diane?
I think that's that's the love
Could be
connection.
It could be. Mr. Peanut Butter. Who is he going to end up with? Jessica Biel again? Who is he going to end up with?
No, she's with Justin Timberlake.
I mean, now
he needs somebody else. Who knows?
We'll switch a lot of people around. ScarJo and Mr. Peanut Butter. ScarJo.
Do you think she
T-Swift?
would? Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I
She
think
might
they
make an
would.
appearance,
Yeah, wasn't
wouldn't it?
ScarJo on some cartoon?
I think ScarJo would be willing to do something like this. Taylor Swift, on the other hand, with the whole Kim Yang
ScarJo is on the
controversy,
SpongeBob movie. That's what I'm thinking of.
Wait, she is?
Yeah, she is.
I didn't know
She's
that,
Neptune's
but-
daughter.
So there you go.
There we go.
Yep.
So she would be cool enough.
Make
She'd
her
do it.
return.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's episodes 3 and 4. Next week we'll be doing 5 and 6. At least you guys will be.
It's true. We'll be back. Thank you, Phil, for being here and filling in for Kanika. You were wonderful.
No problem.
Appreciate everything that you've done today.
That's right. Where can the people? Where can the people comment with you guys and chat with you guys?
If you
want to
chat with me in my off time, hit me up on Twitter or, just do it on the Twitter. At Andrew Mena, ANDREWMENA.
I am more of an Instagram guy, so just follow me on Instagram at Robin Genesai. I was going to say .com. Oh my god. Just follow my mildly interesting life, sprinkled with mediocrity here and there. So there you go. Yeah.
There you go. And let us know your comments about this episode or past episodes in the comments section. That's why it's there. We love talking about it with you guys. We get the conversation started, but you guys get to continue it. So until episode 5 and 6, this is us signing off. We'll see you guys next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.